Borderlands 4 is ridiculously fun. I want to lead with that because while I played it almost non-stop during my early access, with a big thanks to 2K for providing that access, this video is not sponsored. They have no say over anything that I tell you in this video. I did, however, encounter things that have me worried, and I want to go over the positives, the negatives, and everything in between. Let's start with the good. Gameplay is so much fun. Movement is better than ever, and while I was initially worried with so many options possibly being overwhelming, it really does become very fluid, and you don't even really think about it after, I don't know, the first hour of playing. Gunplay is better than ever, and now we can dial in our controller sensitivity like never before, in increments even, so finding your perfect sensitivity is only limited by your willingness to figure it out for yourself. Here's my settings just in case that helps you. If you ask Borderlands fans what was the one thing that bothered them the most about Borderlands 3, it's almost universally one of two things: the story or the frequency of the legendary drops. Well, both of those things are much better in Borderlands 4. I would literally say that they're fixed in Borderlands 4, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that for yourselves. But in my opinion, everything is a lot better in both of those categories. Now, no spoilers here, but the story is arguably the best in the series in my opinion. And I know I'm not really a story guy, but that doesn't mean that I don't understand or don't appreciate good stories. I just don't value them as highly in my overall assessment of a video game as other people sometimes do. That said, I thought that this was better than Borderlands 2. You can take that for however you want it, but I think it's better than Borderlands 2 as a story. Now, is the Timekeeper better than Handsome Jack? No, I don't think anybody can ever beat Handsome Jack. I just don't, but that's okay. We don't need Handsome Jack in every Borderlands game until we die, right? The Timekeeper is an ever-present threat, always looming and doing some pretty heinous things to the main cast along the way. He's not hitting you with non-stop quips and banter, just being the threat that we need from the villain. We all know Handsome Jack was an amazing antagonist in Borderlands 2, and this game and its story does not take away from that. Rather, it builds on the lore of the vaults and the sirens and sets up a lot of interesting threads for the future, whether we stay on Kairos or return to Pandora. Personally, I'm over Pandora at this point. I would love to see the franchise branch out to other vault locations in future games. And while the Timekeeper is not Handsome Jack, and again doesn't need to be, the supporting cast of villains pick up any slack and offer a constant string of challenges, threats, and some humor along the way. And man, let me tell you about these boss fights. They're amazing. I know fans also worry about immune phases, and while there are a few here and there, you can absolutely develop your character into such a badass that you can one-tap all these enemies, which is kind of the point of looter shooters. Find the loot, build your build to maximum potential, and wreck everything. This game delivers on that power fantasy, but you can also make the game more challenging with Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, which luckily does not make you replay the whole story again this time. Instead, you complete a series of quests that unlock a higher difficulty, but there will be more about that after we get through the good, so keep that in mind. Now, like I said earlier, legendary loot is far more rare than it was during Borderlands 3, but still considerably better than it was in Borderlands 2, where raid bosses dropped green and white items on OP10 for some ungodly reason. If you want early legendary loot, then you have options to achieve that. There's rifts, which are these bubbles that appear in the world. They offer a boss in a confined space. Leave that space, the boss disappears. Die, boss disappears. You have to kill him in that bubble. It's a really fun mechanic, and I think it's a really great addition. Now, defeating those rift bosses gives you a chance at their loot, but it also gives you an item box that's sent to your inventory that you can open for a chance at either a blue, purple, or legendary item. Now, I don't know the odds on legendaries from these. I think it leans closer to 10% from the boxes based on my experience, but again, you also have the drop chance from the boss itself. So there's options for loot if you want those options, and we're talking like dedicated drops from the bosses. We're not talking like random world drops. However, if you increase your difficulty to like Ultimate 5, you will get more world drops. There's options for that as well. You can absolutely still farm named enemies in their original location on the map, assuming that they respawn and have a Moxie's big encore machine at their gate, which is an amazing addition to the franchise, by the way. Being able to reset the boss with cash solves two problems. Number one, at endgame, we basically have unlimited money money and nothing to spend it on, and 2, nobody wants to save, quit, and reload their game to farm. The big Encore machine is a perfect solution by the developers. And on that note, let's talk about another great change. Bosses who have more than one drop will have a chance to drop one or all of their drops on kill, since they now have independent drop chances for each item in their loot pool. To simplify this, let's use Savage Lee from Borderlands 2. Now imagine if Savage Lee could drop not only the Unkempt Herald, but what if he could also drop something amazing like the Nasty Surprise? I'm just playing about that, but you know, you get the idea. Now, Savage Lee has a 10% chance to drop the Herald, but with another item added into his loot pool, that other item could also have a 10% chance to drop. So in theory, you could get both to drop on one kill, but it would be rare. Borderlands 3 had a similar thing, but only on certain bosses like Aurelia and Private Beans for some reason. This change is nice, but again, more about this later in the video as well. Another positive thing is that blue and purple loot can absolutely carry you through all the way to level 50 if you want it to. I beat the story at level 35 and I was using almost entirely all purple and blue gear. Level 50, I'm still rocking a purple rep kit, a purple class mod, and a purple knife, and I love those 3 items in a way that I love certain legendary gear in previous games. For those of you who remember launch of Borderlands 2, this feels very similar because I remember rocking a Ravager, a quad, freaking nice Malawan sniper. I had all kinds of amazing purple gear in that game, and it was so fun. It's the same situation here. Now, don't take any of that wrong or as if I'm saying that legendary items are weak and you only can use blues and purples, because that's not the case at all. They're just more rare, and balancing is such that you can seriously just use the gear that you enjoy and not feel required to chase super rare loot. At level 50, I'm still using 2 different level 45 legendary items that I plan to replace with max level versions soon, but even though they're under leveled, they're still strong. I've seen comments that were concerned about the lack of enemies in the open world or that the enemy density is an issue, and I can say with certainty that that is not a concern. There's enemy encampments, world events, boss arenas with loads of enemies to fight along the way. There's also safe houses, silos, and those are kind of akin to like towers from Breath of the Wild, where you have to like, you know, find this area, unlock it, and then that's going to be your travel station. There's also crawler sites to defeat, bounties to chase, ripper drill sites, which are like a faster version of slaughter maps from Borderlands 2 and 3. Basically, a bunch of enemies of different caliber will attack in waves, and then you get a boss fight at the end. Now, these are awesome, and the first one I did really tested my level 45 build and pushed me to improve it because I got my butt whooped the first time I went in there. You can now also send items to your bank without needing to go to a hub area. Just go into your backpack, click on the item, and mark it as bank, then hold down the assigned button that says send a bank, and ta-da! You've cleared out inventory without having to travel anywhere. Super great addition to the game. Again, overwhelmingly positive. I played this game so much during my early access, but I do want to talk about the bad. These are things that need fixed as soon as possible because fans will be very upset about these things. First of all, performance. I had a bunch of stuttering early on, but it cleared as my shader cache did its thing. If you're on an NVIDIA card, here are the things to do to like fix this, and it's real easy. Number 1, turn off the game. Don't have the game running when you do this, but go into your NVIDIA control panel and increase your shader cache. If you have the room to do it, I did 100 gigabytes. I don't know what everybody else wants to do, but that helped me immensely in terms of like storing the shaders and not having to worry about constantly the game trying to reload them. But when you enter new areas, it will lead to more shader caching as it loads those areas in real time while you play. Within a few hours of playing, however, my performance was buttery smooth. However, unless Gearbox sticks all those shaders in the load screen at launch, there's going to be some players out there that are going to see this as a performance issue, and that's just going to be a negative that they're going to have to deal with. Next, early game feels like there is a lot of driving. Now, this again is akin to early on in Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you have to find towers and things to make traversal easier for later on. But since one of the biggest complaints fans had about previous games was all the driving maps and walking through empty land, this feels kind of rough. I'd love to see more fast travel stations added throughout the maps, just along the road. You know, it could just be along the road, even though safe houses and silos exist and you will use those, you will unlock those as you play. It's just early on, it feels like you got to do a lot of driving. And even when you have the safe houses unlocked, there's still going to be times where I just kind of wish that I could travel a little bit closer to where I wanted to be. During my story playthrough, I had a point where I had enemies that had just exclamation points, even though the mission said that it was normal and it didn't give any indication of enemy level or anything like that. So I ended up like trying to push through this area and just got destroyed over and over again. Having enemies that are 5 levels or higher than you is just not fun, and it would be great if the mission indicated that in some way so that I knew before I went and wasted time. I could just, you know, go do side quests, find rifts, do all that fun stuff, and build my character up until I'm ready to go to that area. That seems like a pretty easy fix. Just indicate on the mission what level you should be at. Okay, so earlier I mentioned that bosses have multiple things in the loot pool and they can potentially drop all of those at the same time, but I think this is in some ways kind of not the overall solution. It's a good solution. It's better than Borderlands 3's solution, but I still think with this open world we could have more named enemies just scattered about. There's all these encampments, silos, safe houses, there's the crawlers. Just throw some more named enemies at us and move some of these extra items that are in boss loot pools to those other new named enemies that you've added to the world. There's so much room for more enemies out there. Why not just do that? During early access, my lost loot machine refused to take in this legendary that got stuck on the roof of a boss fight arena. When I saw that it was out of bounds, I immediately went back to one of the hub areas with the lost loot machine, and nope, it wasn't in the machine. Weird. So I went back to the boss arena, and sure enough, the loot stays in the area even when you travel, which I guess kind of makes sense since you're in an open world, so you're not really traveling to a new map, you're just traveling in the same map. But I was like, okay, whatever. I saved and quit thinking surely this saving and quitting will send that item to my lost loot machine, but then I reloaded in the game and nope, not in there. So I've already passed this info along to the developers, and hopefully that's something they can fix. Having ultimate mode be just replaying a story mission with no dialogue skip to unlock the first ultimate vault hunter mode level is just not fun. I get what they were trying to do, but essentially they're still forcing you into replaying some story stuff. It's obviously better than it was in like being forced to like replay true vault hunter mode on the exact same story and ultimate mode on the exact same story in Borderlands 2, but again, we can evolve. I'd rather that they add in some sort of challenge with like a horde mode that you have to survive to unlock the next difficulty, like a Ripper drill site, but on steroids. Even more badasses, maybe a series of bosses at the end, like 2 or 3 bosses at the end. Now, what we have currently is somewhat challenging, but I just don't think it's the best solution to the problem of progression, especially since you have to sit and wait for a character to talk and talk and talk because it's a story mission. Now, secondly, it's also very confusing. So you get the mission after clearing the story from an NPC who I won't name, and then you go and do that, and you can now enable Ultimate Vault Hunter level 1. There's 5 in total at launch, with more that will come later on. But then you complete that and nothing. There's no additional mission from that same NPC that tells you what else to do, and I don't see anything that tells me do this to unlock this. So in case you happen to be one of those people that is playing the game and like don't know how to advance higher up in ultimate levels, this is what you do. You go into your challenges screen and you complete the challenges that it lists for you under Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, and then as you do those, you can increase your Ultimate Vault Hunter level. Now, in terms of dialogue and the lack of a dialogue skip feature, having played Diablo 4, I just don't understand why more games want to make you stand around waiting for people to talk. This is not as bad as it was on Borderlands 3 by any stretch, but it's still worth noting. You still end up talking to characters, you still have to stand around and listen to them before they give you the check mark saying that you've completed that section, and then they give you the next task. Those instances are just in the story, and as some of you guys know, they have said that once you beat the story, you'll be able to do a level 30 skip with your next character, and that way you don't have to sit through all that dialogue. When doing side quests and even main quests, you have to do a fair bit of driving to go from point to point, and you end up getting stuck looking at your compass to try and stay pointed in the right direction. Or more commonly, you'll activate Echo 4 to highlight the way to go, which is a really cool feature, by the way. But the problem is that highlighting highlighted path only stays up for a limited amount of time and then it disappears. It's almost never enough time to get from point A to point B, which, you know, again, fine. Let me just summon Echo 4 again and we'll get to highlight the rest of the path, but nope, he's on a cooldown. Why? Seriously, just why? Why would there be a cooldown for this feature? I don't get that at all. Just give us an option to make the highlighted path last longer. I'm actually on the longest option that we have currently in the settings, and take away the cooldown for summoning Echo 4. I don't see any reason why there should be a cooldown on that. It doesn't make any sense to me. This brings me to my own personal battle that I've been waging with this game since I first saw gameplay. No minimap. Now, the developers got tired of me rallying the forces and did add in the combat radar, which solves the problem of knowing when enemies have spawned behind you, and that's great. It's a toggleable option, so people that don't want it, they can turn it off. But not having a full minimap is most notable while trying to traverse enclosed areas with multiple paths. It's also noticeable in the open world when a legendary drops. If you aren't looking in the direction of the loot, the compass won't indicate the legendary. You have to be looking directly in that direction, or at least have it in your peripherals pretty close. Otherwise, you just won't know that it dropped. Like, some enemies will drop things pretty far away, and if you don't hear that audio cue because you're in combat, well, I guess you probably just lost that legendary, because as we established earlier, the lost loot machine's not working. Another thing about the compass is it is in the way. It is just in the way so much. I look at this item card. Oh, look, my compass is overlapping the item card. Just give me an option to toggle it off. Another thing that happened a lot to me on my Rafa playthrough is I got class mods for every class except my own almost all the time. I don't know what the deal is with that. You would think that that would be dialed in, but for some reason, like, the game thinks that I want Harlow and Vex comms. And I think I have more Amon comms than anything. I'm gonna say that map navigation is still kind of clunky on controller, especially zooming in. I'd love the same option in Borderlands 3 where I can just use the D-pad to quickly jump between fast travel locations. Also, it's probably a little bit confusing for a lot of players to figure out how to get back to certain maps that I don't want to talk about because spoilers, but there's some maps that are going to be hard for you to travel back to unless you really like pay attention to the options on the screen. And here's the one that's like really bothering me, like more than it really should. But why is quit game still an option on this screen? And why is it the first option with no option to say, are you sure? If I want to close my game, let me quit the menu and then choose quit game. That's like 2 seconds tops, right? At most, maybe just a second, honestly. And it's right there at the bottom when you quit to the menu. It bothers the hell out of me. With all of that said, this game is actually amazing. Even with the bad and the ugly items that I listed, most of which I imagine that they're probably pushing out a patch to fix right now. Even with all that, this game is easily the best game in the series, period. We don't have a solid end game yet, and if they don't nail that, that's not on me. But in terms of like the base game experience, it is godly. It is so much fun. There's so much to do. It will occupy your time for hundreds of hours, most likely, just doing base game. And I've only played one character so far. Straight up, guys, I've only played one character so far. There is so much to do, so much to experience. Again, I'm staying outside of spoiler territory here. I don't want you guys to like be spoiled by anything, okay? I found the story to be my favorite in the franchise, and I cannot wait to talk about some of it after everybody's had a chance to play and I don't have to worry about spoilers anymore. The gameplay is even better than Borderlands 3, where it was already massive steps up from Borderlands 2. I literally stayed up until 4 a.m. several nights in a row because I was just grinding and having fun, chasing gear for my build, exploring the map, wrecking bosses, and learning the drops. It's straight up 100% the best game in the franchise, period. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This one is not sponsored. The only thing 2K gave me was early access, and I think I levied some pretty valid concerns that will hopefully lead to them making improvements to make this game even better. If you want more Borderlands content, then be sure to subscribe, tap that bell icon to be notified when I post. I'll have item guides, top 10s, playthroughs, and so much more coming for you guys. Thanks for watching. Take care.